In this part, we're going to find trig values, sine, cosine, tangent of the different angles. And that is a three-step process. Step one is you sketch the angle and you find the reference angle. Then you evaluate the trig function for the reference angle. And then finally, you have to find whether your answer is going to be positive or negative, using what we call, this phrase, all students take calculus. The way that works is we go around the quadrants and you say all students take calculus. That's how to remember the order. And then the way you use it is in the first quadrant where it's A, that stands for all. So all of the functions are positive. The next one stands for sine. So in that quadrant, sine is positive, everything else is negative. Then T is for tangent. Only tangent is positive here. Everything else is negative. And then cosine, only cosine is positive. So for example, if you were to draw an angle of 200 degrees, that's here. In that quadrant, it's T. Tangent is positive. So if I asked you to find sine of 200, it would be negative because only tangent is positive there. All right, so with that, let's take a look at what we're going to need for this. We're going to need the three triangles for all of these. You should either have them memorized or just draw them somewhere so you can have easy access to them. The three triangles are 1 for the pi over 3, 1 for the pi over 6, and 1 for the pi over 4. So for the pi over 3, the opposite side gets root 3 over 2, and this is 1/2. For the pi over 6, it's switched. And then for the pi over 4, they're both 1 over root 2. And for these, instead of the old SOHCAHTOA, I now get rid of the h's, so sine is not opposite over hypotenuse, it's just the opposite side. Cosine is just the adjacent side, and so on. All right, so let's do the first one. I have tangent of 5 pi over 3. 5 pi over 3, if you write it in mixed number, it's 1 and 2/3 pi. So let's graph that. That's the first step to sketch the angle. I have 1 pi and another 2/3 pi. That brings me to quadrant 4. Now, theta prime is pi over 3. I just take pi over the denominator. Step 1. Step 2, I'm being asked for tangent in this problem, so I find tangent of the reference angle. Okay, so that's the pi over 3 triangle. I go to my pi over 3 triangle, that's the first one, and tangent is opposite over adjacent. So I'm going to say that this is root 3 over 2 over 1/2. The 2's cancel, so that's just root 3. Okay, the last step is I go over to the angle that I sketched again. We ended up in the fourth quadrant. In that quadrant, it's all students take calculus. Cosine is positive, so tangent is negative. So I say my answer is going to be negative. So finally, I say the final answer is negative root 3. All right, let's take a look at another one. I have 150 degrees. Let's just sketch. 150 degrees is here. My theta prime is 30. Because I'm being asked for sine, I look for sine of 30. 30 degrees is the second triangle. Sine is just the opposite, so it's just 1/2. Third step, in that quadrant, in the second quadrant where my angle landed, it's all students, S, right? So sign is positive. That means my answer is going to be positive. So finally, this is positive 1/2. Okay. This next one is pi over 4. Okay. Where is pi over 4? It's in the first quadrant. When it's in the first quadrant, it's the simplest case ever because this is just straight up cosine of pi over 4. There is no reference angle needed in the first quadrant. So you go to the pi over 4 triangle, and cosine is the adjacent side. For the pi over 4, that is 1 over root 2. So that's just 1 over root 2. Because in the first quadrant everything is positive, you just leave it as positive 1 over root 2. Okay, sine of 120. 120 is here. Reference angle is 60 degrees. So what I'm going to do here is I need to find sine of 60 degrees. That's the first triangle. Sine is the opposite side of pi over 3, so it's root 3 over 2. In that first quadrant, sine is positive. In that second quadrant, sine is positive. So the answer here is positive root 3 over 2. Okay, next, 210. That's 180, 210. Theta prime is 30 degrees. Now, what I'm looking for here is cotangent of 30 degrees. 30 degrees is like pi over 6, so I go to the second triangle. Cotangent is adjacent over opposite, so that's going to be root 3 over 2 over 1/2. Cancel the 2's, that's root 3. In that quadrant, it's all students take calculus. Tangent is positive, so is cotangent, so my answer is just root 3. You don't have to write the positive. Root 3 is good enough. Okay, next I have pi over 3, secant of 5 pi over 3. So look, I had already done 5 pi over 3 right over here in part A. And I had said that 5 pi over 3 was in the fourth quadrant and that theta prime was pi over 3. So if you already know that from one problem, you could just reuse it. Okay, secant, I'm going to use the first triangle for pi over 3. All right. Oops, I erased too much over there. Secant is like cosine for pi over 3. So that's the 1/2. All right. If cosine of pi over 3 is 1/2, secant is the reciprocal 2 over 1. In this quadrant, cosine is positive, so that's a 2. Okay, here, 11 pi over 6 is 1 5/6 pi. 1 pi, 5/6 of a pi. The reference angle is pi over 6, so I need to find tangent of pi over 6. Second triangle, tangent is 1/2 over root 3 over 2. Twos cancel, that's 1 over root 3. In this quadrant though, tangent is negative, so this is negative 1 over root 3. Okay, last, 23 over 3 pi is 7 2/3 pi. So Let's see what 7 pi looks like. 2 pi, 4 pi, 6 pi, 7 pi ends up right there, and then another 2/3 of a pi right here. Okay, I need to find cosine of pi over 3. I go to the triangle, and that tells me that the adjacent for pi over 3 is 1/2. In that quadrant, cosine is positive, so my answer is 1/2. And that is that.